President Obama's under the misconception that if he just gives in to Republicans enough, that things will work out terrific for him. So I'm going to give you 3 stories here that, if they were in their own context and President Obama had never done anything before to appease Republicans, you might say, well, look, I can see that. But I'm going to give them all to you now. They're all just happened, right? To give you a sense of how much President Obama does this. So obviously they had some problems with the Department of Veteran Affairs, so he appointed a new head. Guy's a West Point graduate. His name is Bob McDonnell, but he's actually a corporate executive. Obama putting a corporate executive in charge. That's strange. Of course. Now, that's what he does all the time. This guy used to run Procter & Gamble. Now, that's a little strange because normally you'd put a doctor in that role or someone who's a general, et cetera. But I don't mind him going outside the box on that. But until you find out who Bob McDonnell is. As I'm reading the article on it, they say, oh, John Boehner, enthusiastic support for Bob McDonnell. I'm like, when's the last time John Boehner had enthusiastic support for something President Obama did, especially on an issue that President Obama was having a lot of problems with? And then one Republican after another, oh, Bob McDonnell, Bob McDonnell, Bob McDonnell's awesome. Really? President Obama did something awesome. Why? Quote from the Washington Post, McDonnell has financially supported Republican politicians in the past, according to federal election records, including Boehner and 2012 presidential nominee Mitt Romney. I love how people think that Obama's playing third-dimensional chess and how he's a strategist and he's so cunning and he's so, skillful and vicious. I don't know if you know this, Mitt Romney ran against you. So here he goes again, another Republican, another CEO in another important position. Okay, well played, well played. You got him on the ropes now. So then we go to the patent office. Now, that's a strange thing to talk about, right? But it's important. See, a lot of people are in favor of patent reform because they think things like pharmaceutical companies have patents that last way too long. That monopoly is understandable in the beginning, but then they stretch it out for so long that it winds up hurting the health and lives of millions of people in this country, let alone in other places. Now, it's a legitimate argument back and forth on how long patents should be, but President Obama, of course, promised to be the president who did patent reform. So, who did he just put in charge of the patent office? Well, let's find out. The Obama administration is set to appoint Phil Johnson, pharmaceutical industry executive, say it with me, of course, as the next director of the United States Patent and Trademark Office, according to sources. The move is likely to anger patent reform advocates, given Johnson's past efforts to block legislation aimed at reining in patent trolls, and in light of his positions that appear to contradict the White House's professed goal of fixing the patent system. Okay, example number 1827, where President Obama does the exact opposite of what his professed goals are. Continuing here in this article, Johnson has also opposed previous patent reform initiatives, describing them as almost everything an infringer could ever want. So if you say we should do patent reform, you're in favor of the infringers, that's what you are. Patent reform. Gone. There will be no patent reform under Obama. Sweet little lies. He talks a good game. Oh, man, yeah. Change, you can believe it. Where's that corporate executive that's going to totally kill all that change? Now, of course, he most famously did this in the case of net neutrality, but again, I can name you 1,000 other cases where he's done it. Now, finally, in this case, they say there's been overwhelmingly positive reaction to this development among insiders who see Johnson as a strong, capable leader with extensive experience, both in management of patents at a major pharmaceutical company, as well as many years as a first-chair patent litigator. In other words, the pharmaceutical industry executives love him. Oh, Obama getting tough on those drug companies. Now, finally, we go to issue number 3. And that's immigration reform. Now, Republicans say, oh, you're too soft on the immigrants, and because of that, all these kids came in. And there are real problems at the border with the number of kids that are being stored because it's gone up almost 100% in the last year, the number of kids coming in from Latin American countries that are actually not Mexico, right? Although I saw today, conservatives on Twitter are like, yeah, way to go get those Mexicans. This actually applies to non-Mexicans. But anyway, facts inconvene. So, New York Times explains, President Obama will ask Congress to provide more than $2 billion in new funds to control the surge of illegal Central American migrants at the South Texas border and to grant broader powers for immigration officials to speed deportations of children caught crossing without their parents, White House officials said on Saturday. So the guy who is going to apparently soften immigration laws continues his record streak for record deportations. And now he's asked for $2 billion more to do more deportations. Again, in its own context, if this is the only thing Obama did, you'd say, hey, look, maybe there's some sense in that, man. You don't want to encourage these kids doing this dangerous trip without their family. And there's some logic behind it. I get it. But in issue after issue, President Obama thinks that he's going to win if he concedes. And in issue after issue, they use it against him. Just today in the Hobby Lobby case, Justice Kennedy said, well, Obama made an exemption for churches and church-run hospitals and schools. So I guess, that birth control and the Affordable Care Act, making it cost-free, is not that important to him. So since he made that concession, I'm going to broaden that concession and apply it to corporations as well. You give an inch, they take a mile. More on immigration. House Republican leaders chastised the president last week, saying his lax enforcement of immigration laws had unleashed the flow. Of course they did. So what does President Obama do? Oh my God, Republicans criticize me. White House official says the uptick in activity at the border and the steps the administration has put in place are extraordinary. We are maxing out our capacities within the existing appropriated monies. Don't worry, he's maxing out how many people he can deport. Change you can believe in.